This episode's format is a bit different. I sat down with Khaled Talhouni, managing partner at Nuwa Capital, an early-stage MENA VC with over 30-plus startups in their portfolio. I asked him specific questions and got practical and actionable tips for MENA founders planning to raise their first round. This is part one of a 3-part series where Khaled breaks down how VCs evaluate founders, what traits make them stand out, and how Nuwa Capital specifically makes their investment decisions. In the next part, we'll cover how to raise your first round and Khaled's lessons from 15 years of venture capital. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the rest, and let's get started. Thanks again, Khaled. How do you really assess founders and startups in general? It's a bit broad, but how do you really assess them?
It's sort of multifaceted. So the earlier the company, the more it is about the founding team and the quality of that, objectively, the quality of the team that's come together to found that business. The entrepreneur itself is the focal point of the decision whether to invest or not at any stage. But at the earlier stages, there's much less residual value, meaning once you've built a multi-billion-dollar business that has revenue, that has revenues in hundreds of millions, sticky customers and profits, etc., and a clear product, then you can do something with it. But still, the founder is a critical component of that. At the earlier stage, I think it's all about the founders, the founding team that the founders have brought around them. Whether they're a good, fit for purpose for the task ahead of them, for the mission that they've set themselves out to do. Mm-hmm. And I think we're looking for 2 kind of key things within that. So the first is, clarity of vision. So whether they can articulate and demonstrate a clear vision of the problem that they want to solve and how they want to solve it and why they think they're able to solve it, and a confidence in that ability, the ability to attract others around that vision. And then secondly, and these are somewhat contradictory, but it's being able to balance them. That's the key to success, is an ability to kind of also evolve that vision and their view of the business or the offering and how they want to solve for the problem that they've set out to do. Because very rarely what the nature of your business is to start with ends up in the same way at the end, meaning you really have to evolve and pivot. Successful founders, a pivot tends to be more dramatic, but you just evolve your thought process, being able to internalize and synthesize information from the market and your customers and your team to be able to evolve and change the vision of the business is a critical piece. So it's 2 contradictory things. You need to be able to kind of drown out the noise of naysayers and people basically telling you it doesn't work or it can't work, etc., and having clarity of vision against understanding when the right moment is to evolve a business. And I think that's one of the most critical parts of success and the hardest ones to really screen for. It's not objective. It's entirely subjective. It depends on your interaction with the founder. Yeah.
That's my follow-up question. If they're in an early stage or is it first-time founder, how much data do you have about their ability to know when to pivot, when to say no, or when to take no for an answer in your case? How do you predict that?
There's no data except the specific interactions with the founder. If it's a first-time founder. So if it's a second or third-time founder, you can see from their history how they reacted to challenges in the past.
Yeah.
But if it's a first-time founder, you don't really have much. I think what we're looking for is, I think how they interact, how they react to our questions, how they think about things, how they're reacting to others. I mean, we're looking for that. It's a bit like psychometric testing, almost informal psychometric testing.
Would you do that in your interviews, literally try to test against their principles, etc.?
I don't want to say so formally. It's a bit subconsciously. So it's not but I think we're looking out for their ability to kind of evolve their thinking based on interactions, but also being confident in their vision, really being clear and articulating what it is that they want to solve and how they want to solve it. So, I realize this sounds quite subjective, but I think it is, it is something more art than science. I mean, it's very hard to kind of figure that out, except, through the interaction with the founder.
On that note, in general, do you prefer funding second-time founders versus first-time founders?
Generally, and there's a bit more data on this. So we did a study or a survey. I mean, study makes it sound grander than it is, but we did a survey of we took the 100 best outcomes in the region. Based on valuation and exit. So we took all the exits and the top last posted valuation that's still holding, that we know is still high. So even though valuation is an imperfect metric, but it's what we have given that there aren't that many exits. And we took the founders of all those top 100 companies in our region, and we kind of isolated some key factors of success, one of which was being a multiple time founder. So that was a plurality of founders that came up, people who have either been founders before or more importantly have been at startups that become scale ups. So have kind of gone through a journey before. So that tended to be one of the variables to denote success.
Awesome. Do you have a link like to this study, to this case, etc.?
Yeah. I can put it up. Yeah.
We'll link that later within the description then. Great. Awesome.
Yeah, there's another kind of interesting factors within that, but again, it's a small sample size, but it's useful, indicative, direction. Yeah, it gives you a direction.
And okay, so then how do you source deals?
There's kind of a number of ways. So the first is there's a lot of cold inbound, which tends not to be the best deal flow, to be honest. Like my email and the team's email is out there, right? Because we go to events, we meet people, we're always kind of giving our contacts. So, anybody has my email, which is Khaled at nuwacapital.io. So it's easy. A lot of people have my number too. So, WhatsApp is another. So a lot of cold inbound. They tend to be the lowest quality. So the least kind of likely to convert. The second is solicited inbound. So we either get that from our other founders, and those tend to be the best actually. When founders basically recommend or introduce us to other founders, so founders that we know we've worked with or haven't worked with, we have some relationship to introduce to others. I think that's been really, really phenomenal as intros. They tend to be other VCs at times. So we talk to other VCs all the time. We try to kind of be in contact with everyone all the time. That way they know what we're doing. We know what they're doing. There's some stuff that we like, other people don't like. Assuming it's a relatively cooperative environment, which is not always the case, by the way. I think we do share deals from time to time. And then the less common stuff is from industry. So if we have connections to other people in corporates, etc., they'll say, someone's leaving to start this business. LPs sometimes will direct stuff our way. And then lastly, we've used the Scout network, which is like people we incentivize with some carry to go find deals for us.
Do you have a big Scout network? When did you launch it? Like, how is it going?
Yeah, a few years ago. I think some mixed results. We've done about how many? 11 or 12 Scout tickets, very small tickets.
Okay.
A couple are good, but early. I think they've not been amazing, but they don't move the needle for us because they're so small.
Small means, just to understand the details,
under $100,000.
12 Ds in 2 years out. Okay. And non-Scout, what is just to understand the
average is like $2 to $3 million.
Okay. And how many non-Scout you've done, like non-from Scout, like from your regular sources, from the other sources?
25. So
within the 2 years also.
Yeah, within 3.5 years.
Okay, fair. Like maybe 25% on a lower early stage. Yeah. What's a great Scout? What is a great? Is great Scout should has what skills or like?
Again, other founders. I think it's like people who are founders, who are in the entrepreneurial network, who are basically constantly networking with other founders, and they'd like to invest and they want to kind of help other founders very, very early on. Those tend to be the very best.
Are your founders out and about and networking with other founders, or are they working? What do they do?
There's a lot of networking around, like, for example, finding talent, sharing talent. So finding talent and learning. So that's where they interact a lot. And you also find like technical founders always network with other technical founders where they're sharing ideas and thoughts and stuff like that. And then also finding talent. They're constantly looking for, there are all these WhatsApp groups that are just founder only. They're quite useful to kind of, we're not invited to them, but like the founders are, and within them, they kind of share a lot of news and insights and ideas on what other different people are doing.
Do you want to share anything else on the due diligence process? Like, is there anything you do specifically that others don't, or like what to expect? I'm a founder. I don't know what happens inside the VC. I know there's a due diligence. What is it really? What do you do? Things you want to highlight maybe that are important.
So the number one thing, the way our DB process, we talked about like the sourcing and the pipeline, the inbound. The first thing that happens is we ask whoever kind of has sent us a deal we send them an Airtable link that has the ability to upload their deck and then a little bit of additional info like LinkedIn profiles, stuff like that. The reason we do that is we want to collect the data easily and quickly. And then number two, what that allows us, it automatically slots it into our pipeline, lets us organize our pipeline. We get like 50 a week, 40 a week, something like that. So we get the big volumes. It lets us make sure that we don't miss anything. To be fair, we do miss stuff all the time just because of the sheer volume especially on cold inbounds.
Yeah.
Where there's no personal kind of touch.
Yeah.
And so what happens then is, whoever got the deal would have seen it, taken a read of it. Then we have a pipeline meeting twice a week. And in that pipeline meeting, we discuss the deals that have come through up until that point, and then talk about where deals have reached in our process. And I'll talk about what we decide to take forward or not in a second, but just explaining the process. So at those two pipeline meetings, we say, okay, we're going to kill it. We don't want to take it forward. We don't want to waste anyone's time.
How much time this takes?
It can take like 5 minutes. Less can take a minute. Each deal can take under a minute.
Yeah, of course.
Under 5 minutes. Yeah.
But you're doing this weekly, kind of.
Yeah, we're doing like, high volumes, right? Twice a week we do these meetings, and the meeting's about an hour. So because we're getting through volume, even though some deals, the easy kind of exclusion stuff is, if we get a deal that's, a semiconductor fab in Taiwan, we're not going to do it. So that's a 5-second conversation, right?
Yeah.
So all the team is in this meeting. We say go, no go on the first screen, and I'll explain what goes into that screen. And then if it's yes, then there's a second call. We do a call with multiple team members, and then they report back at the next pipeline meeting. And at that pipeline meeting, we've gone deeper into it. And if it's a yes, we start like DD and memo building. Our investment memo is our DD process, which includes all kinds of stuff like market sizing, product market fit, reference checks, industry mapping, understanding the structure of the market they're in, some very light technical DD, etc. We look at like the size of market, like I said, market sizing, business model, revenue, monetizability, all kinds of stuff. And then we build our sort of how big can this be and how much more capital does it need, etc. We build our case. Assuming it's a yes, we take it to a formal investment committee, and then it's go or yes or no at that investment committee. So that's the nature of our due diligence process.
Very nice.
I mean, just on the initial screen in that first interaction, I think a big chunk of VC is exclusionary, meaning managing pipeline is just excluding the stuff that you don't want to do. Otherwise, you can get overwhelmed.
Yep.
And you waste people's time. I think the worst thing you can do is waste people's time, which I've been very guilty of many, many times, which because, it's hard to manage that kind of volume. But I think we get better as we go along. Firstly, is it within mandate? Regional, sector, focus area, etc.
What's yours? Since we're talking, what's yours for listeners?
So ours is like on geography, it's very simple. MENA, GCC, Egypt, Levant, Turkey, by exception, Pakistan and maybe East Africa, but really it's that GCC, Egypt, Turkey, early stage. So we want pre-series A to get in at pre-series A as early as, first ticket. So we can go very, very early. We want reasonable valuations depending on the sector. So we screen for that. But if we think it's very high growth and can 20x from here, even if it's a high valuation, we might do it. But it's just about how big it can get rather than the entry price. And that's what I mean by valuation. There are certain sectors we exclude, but we're a generalist. So we look at a lot of different sectors, but there are specific business models we just don't do. So one we don't do is like B2B marketplaces, like FMCG bank. We just don't do. We've never done. So there's stuff that we know as a fact we don't do. And so that's a kind of an easy screen for us. And a lot of the times, interestingly, we see the same types of companies over and over and over and over again. So in terms of the same business model with some tweaks, but they're similar and they keep repeating.
As you are screening and vetting founders and startups, what are early signs that this could be a very good fit?
Number one, great founders. I mean, that's the first thing we look. I mean, one of the first things we look at sector and who's the team. Number two, if we feel like this is instinctively at the first screen, this is a big problem. Oh, wow. This is obviously a big problem. Like if someone can solve this is going to be incredible, so that's the thing. That's the thing. And then, okay, is their proposed solution make sense? Yes. Is it monetizable? How do we monetize it? Okay. So that's how and then what's the total addressable market? How big is the TAM? And how can we substantiate it? Those kind of steps tend to be the kind of intellectual process we go through at that kind of first interaction, first screen.
Just a question here. Let's take Airbnb as an example, right? It wasn't a traditional business model. No one saw it coming. A lot of no's, etc. Do you have a process so that you don't miss out on on a potential Airbnb?
One thing, we cheat a little bit in the Middle East because we rarely see totally new business models that have not existed before. There's a few, but not many, especially in consumer. So we don't think that MENA companies, I should say 70% of what we do is consumer internet, right? So then consumer internet, we have the luxury of basically looking at founders building businesses that have been built somewhere else or similar to stuff that's been built somewhere else.
So MENA is a rocket internet. So we're in rocket internet, MENA itself.
I mean, rocket internet companies have done well here, Nemshi, etc. So that helps us on the consumer internet side. On the enterprise side, less so, because even on enterprise, something new could come out of MENA. My feeling is, with AI and with ultra connectivity and all of this stuff, I think a global business can easily emerge from MENA, especially on the B2B side. I really think that could happen increasingly. So the closest I did is in my previous role, we invested in a company called Insider, which is a global marketing SaaS business out of Turkey and has become huge. More of that could happen. I think less on the consumer side. To do new consumer businesses like Airbnb, you need an early adopter society at scale, something like the US or something like that. So I think that's harder to do here. But I mean, never say never. And truth be told, I think if that came out here, it could be easy to miss that. It could be easy for us to miss that.
Got you. But in summary, it's much easier in the US to find the 0.5% that could care and target them with the same culture, same message, same everything, versus find them.
Yeah, I mean, anything that requires a new consumer behavior, can I put it that way? A new way of consuming something.
Yeah.
That's novel and unique and changes the industry. It's harder to do straight out of the Middle East. I think more B2B can be done here for sure. I think you can still do consumer here, but I think it's just not as easy.
And opposite question, what are red flags and things as you are vetting, you see okay, that's definitely that's not going to happen.
So like I said, exclusionary stuff, certain models we know we don't like, we've seen before, we just exclude on the fly. B2B marketplace being one. Generally suspicious of Silicon Valley founders doing cold inbound to us, and it's I don't know why you're here, there's probably something wrong with you, right? That's a big red flag always, though sometimes not necessarily, but sometimes 90% of the time it's a massive red flag. Any kind of founder issues that are obvious, if there's 2 or 3 founders and you can tell there's a bit of tension, because one of the top 3 reasons companies fail is founder issues. And you'd be surprised how often that's obvious at the beginning. Just not a clear articulation of what we're looking for is not so much them knowing their industry inside out, because we're not experts in most of these or almost all of these industries.
Yes.
It's just being thoughtful and constructive around it. When we talk to them and we were kind of learning about it and asking questions there, and maybe even challenging some of their assumptions, even if our assumptions are wrong, is kind of dealing with that constructively and thoughtfully. And I think that's super important. And then also being able to attract talent. Sometimes people can't attract talent because they're hard to work with in a way is not productive. And that can be obvious. I can't, an inability to retain talent.
Got you. In general, you funded let's say the deal closed, all is good. In general, do you advise your founders to sacrifice personal time, sacrifice a bit of their life, have less social life, etc., but maximize multiples and exit potential? What's your take? What's your honest take as a professional?
Yeah, I mean, you're either all in or you're not. I mean, that if they're not in it, somebody definitely that's a red flag. Somebody tells me, I have a work-life balance. I'm to the pass immediately. Yeah.
Okay.
It's not that kind of thing.
Don't take my money if you're not willing to.
Yeah, it's not about my money. It's about building these businesses is super hard. Just don't do it. If I was advising someone, they said, I'm very careful about working 9 to 5. I don't want to travel much. I want to manage my stress. I don't okay, don't do a startup. Do something else. There are plenty of amazing businesses that can be lucrative, that are more kind of lifestyle geared, and this is not a value judgment. This one is better than that one. It's just different. This is painful. It is emotionally draining. It's not even so much the time that people need to work till 2 a.m. It's just about being there, present, that it's going to be top of mind all the time. You can work 9 to 6 or whatever, even 10 till 7. It doesn't matter. It's not about your hours put in. It's about you live and breathe it. It consumes you.
Yep.
This is a job that consumes you, being a startup founder. So if you don't want to do that, then, do something else. You won't, there's no way you can succeed.
All right, that's it for part 1. In part 2, Khaled shares specific tips and best practices to help founders successfully raise their first round. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss it. It's going to be a great one. See you soon.